right off the street.
Tell me when we're ready. We're on.
Hewlett Packard says it's 7:30.
Meeting will come to order. First item is to review the business meeting agenda. Ralph, you have the invocation,
Yes, sir.
announcement.
The first one is Bill Huntley, who's been a pretty long time member of our sanitary authority, has submitted a letter of resignation. So
His wife.
I'll take a motion and then declare open, position open for filling the vacancy under our procedure, I suppose. And the second announcement is the county has an ongoing program, and this is Allegheny County vacant property recovery program, and they are offering once again a discount period. So we want to make sure that this gets promulgated in every way possible. That anyone that wants to buy a piece of property, they can attach to theirs. It generally is referred to as a side yard program, but they have allowed people to attach to a vacant property that's to the rear of the property. So we want to get the word out as much as possible. The property program is alive and well, and there is a discount offered if someone wants to buy a vacant parcel adjacent to theirs. The county's usual price is about $3,000, and the reduced price is $1,400 through August 30th.
Do you know if there's a limit on the size of property? It used to be a half an acre or something.
Not off the top of my head. Reed, do you have any idea if there's a limit to the size of property?
I don't recall, but you're thinking maximum or minimum half acre?
Maximum of half an acre. Yeah.
It's possible, but I'd have to check and see.
We'll have to check the standard.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There is a limit. I remember reading it, but I don't remember what it is.
Okay.
Okay, is any other announcements?
Nope.
Ralph, do you have the minutes of
I do, sir.
Finance Committee? Councilwoman Pye?
We had a list of checks, and we've already reviewed those, and I will just post the amount.
Anybody have any questions?
I saw, we're looking at the bills.
Yes.
I saw that there were, it looks like we're getting started on the floor in the Public Works building. Is that what some of the charges that I saw there?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like that's getting started. Now, I saw that, or I believe that we had in the budget for that, $155,100. Is that what we had in the budget for that? And then Kismo got the bid for 84.
Kishmo, yeah.
Kishmo, 84,980. So I saw several checks being sent to them. So how much of that have we spent?
Let's check the amount there that you see so far. These would be, I believe, the first checks to them.
I'm just trying to figure out a way to be able to look at the bills each month and know how close we are to that estimate, and if it goes over. Lots of times estimates will go over. So how can I look at this and know that?
Well, for this one, if this is a firm contract price, the only way Kishmo is going to get paid any more is if we give them additional authorization, which you would know about.
Okay.
And also, go ahead, Reed, you look like you're ready. I look up and you're.
He's ready.
He's ready.
Yeah, I was just chiming in because we've talked about the check listing before, and the way you would ideally see whether we've exceeded budget in areas with a monthly financial statement. And we talked about that, and I talked about once I have a new person on board, who, by the way, started today,
Yeah, oh, good.
we can get this process up and running so that
Okay.
this really isn't a good format for trying to compare actual to budget.
Yeah.
Because you could buy supplies for one department on 15 different checks in here, and each time you'd be updating the actual to the budget. And that would be something we'd have to do manually, it's not automated. So the monthly financial statement is the best way to see that. I could actually right now and take a quick look if you wanted me to see where we stand with that, Flora.
I was just trying to find out so I could,
Sure.
see for myself
Sure.
without having to ask every month, well, how are we on this?
Yeah,
and
that-
how- And not just this, just, a lot of
Exactly,
different
and the
things.
monthly financial statement is the way to see that, it compares actual to budget.
When do you think we might start seeing those? I know the person's new, they have to get oriented.
They do.
Yeah. Couple months?
I would say that probably August.
August?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're well under the, I didn't, is there a warrant number? I was looking for the warrant number on that, but I wasn't catching it right away.
I don't know what Warren number is.
The check number off to the side?
Oh,
Check number on the
Give a
side.
check number on that.
last column. Yeah, I didn't write down the check numbers. I just saw 2 or 3 different checks that were, started being paid and just wondered, just where we were on it and, just trying to keep up.
I think we're pretty much, aren't they, they're basically done with that project. I think the floor's curing right now, so.
The floor is curing, but they, I don't know where they stand with their progress payments offhand. We'd have to gladly check and get a report back on that. One other thing, though, to point out is that when if you recall, Mark Savina reported under the Public Works Committee status that we encountered slag in some of the base. That had to be excavated out. So the most efficient way to excavate that out was through a milling machine, which we rented. So that'll be an extra $5,000 worth of cost that will be attributed to this part of the budget, this category of the budget. We took quotes, and the low quote, I believe, was Swank, which is one of the big companies that does milling. Shields gave us a quote, we got a good quote, and they milled out that old material so that we could get the depth of the concrete floor that we wanted to have, which is a minimum of 8 inches.
That was my only question.
Do you have anything else, Joanne?
No, that completes mine.
Public Works, move to award a contract to Jay's Construction Services to perform the work under the town's 2017 Stormwater Management Facilities Maintenance Program in the amount of $79,335. Any more spilled in that pond since over the weekend?
Still to work?
Is there more silt in there?
Imagine. No, but there's 4 cars, a tractor trailer, and 3 buses.
And a bus in there, yeah, okay. Number 2 is to move to award the salt contract extension with Morton Salt under the North Hills Council of Governments Year 2 option bid at a price of $66.40 per ton. Then a move to authorize the purchase of 2 2017.
Oops, should have another 2 there. 1, 2.
You got too many 2s, we have 1, 2. Of 2 2017
2
Ford F-550 utility vehicles, each in the amount of $34,860.25 from C. Harper Auto Group, the lowest responsible bidder under CoStar's contract number 25251. That's all we have for public work. Public safety.
I'll move to adopt ordinance number 1465, an ordinance authorizing the enforcement of a stop sign on the eastbound lane of Waldwick Drive at the intersection with Remington.
You got everything in order for that?
Was all studied and approved.
Okay. Recreation Committee,
Move to approve resolution number 10 of the 2017 series, a resolution requesting permission from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to place a banner across Perry Highway, Route 19, at Perrymont Road to advertise McCandless Community Day.
okay. I think that takes care of the business meeting. Let's move over to the agenda review. Item number 3, the Planning Commission, Councilman McKim.
First, there's, on June 7th, there was on June 6th, the Planning Commission met and took the following actions that are discussed. The preliminary and final approval of a simple subdivision for McCandless Crossing Plan Number 9. That property is located in McCandless Crossing west of the eastern side of Duncan Avenue beside LA Fitness. This parcel is between the CA Ventures McCandless Senior Living Facility and McKnight Road. They recommended approval to Town Council. Next, there was a preliminary and final approval of a land development application for Stonecrest of Pittsburgh. The property is located in McCandless Crossing west of the eastern side of Duncan Avenue beside LA Fitness. This parcel is between CA Ventures, McCandless Senior Living Facility, and McKnight Road. The Planning Commission tabled that aspect of the motion. And then we have plans, the next meeting after this will be on July 5th, 2017, and they will discuss the preliminary and final approval of a land development application for MC Tip Associates / Adventure Champion Partnerships. The property is located in McCandless Crossing west of the eastern side of Duncan Avenue. Preliminary and final approval of a land development application for subdivision 9801 Babcock Boulevard. That property is located at 9801 3 Degree Road on Old Babcock Boulevard. And thirdly, a preliminary and final approval of a conditional use application for Robert Goddell, Inc. The property is located at 8443 Perry Highway. Okay.
Anything else, Bill?
Yes, we've had work on, we developed, and as you will recall, a request for an RFP was developed and circulated to town council and planners related to the implementable comprehensive plan that we've discussed in the past. And it was reviewed by the town attorney and the State Department of Community and Economic Development. You recall that Henry Pucco came in and spoke to us. He provided an overview for commercial and for council and in a February meeting, at a February meeting. Following that, the staff identified 14 potential consultants who might submit plans and has done so with other municipalities. That RFP was sent to 11 and advertised through the American Planning Association PA chapter. We received 6 responses, some from advertising and some from the RFP. The committee, we had formed a committee, which the chair of the planning committee, Ted Meinert, and the land use administrator, Bruce Betty, and Gavin Robb, counsel, a partner of the town attorney, and myself, and then the town manager. So a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 individuals were on that committee. That committee reviewed the proposals and determined that only two of them closely met the RFP, and then interviewed 2 of them. The implementable comprehensive plan versus the traditional plan is the distinction is that the community opinion and the desires of the residents is critical on the implementable plan. The traditional plan that one of these gravitated toward was largely triggered and results from their, it's data-driven. The implementable portion of the plan basically requires the development of the wishes of the community in general. There will be a, when it's done, it's not done, this is just a proposal of who would do this. That plan should be, the plan will be, when it's done, would develop that information. It's almost the distinction between trying to ascertain what the intentions of the community are versus a data-driven proposal by one of the consultants. The two consultants that we interviewed as Pashek and slash MTR and EPD, an environmental planning and design company. Pashek's proposal, in our judgment, was more closely aligned with the specifics of the RFP. You'd have to look at the RFP and ascertain whether he in this case was responding to in a reasonable way to what's in the RFP. We felt that we feel that the Pashek proposal was the best one. Now, in terms of the quality of their professionals directed to the task at hand, we thought in terms of their technical competence, they were reasonably equivalent in terms of the professional quality of the people that would be assigned to these tasks. But the Pashek had significantly more experience in dealing with implementable comprehensive plans. In fact, he's I think it would be fair to say he's almost the person who developed the concept of doing putting a comprehensive implementable comprehensive plan together. When that is put together, the implementable plan in general will include specific descriptions of items that basically a list of items that the residents wish to see done, and then that is quantized in terms of the cost, and that's really not done yet. But there's the amount of hours we felt that the hours that Pashek's plan spelled out 865 hours as against 445 hours from the EPD proposal, and that we believe that was a result of Pashek's more intense effort in ascertaining the wishes of the community. It's a considerable task to go out and get information from the community and ask them what do they want. I mean, it's sort of a community-driven activity, and that is not what the EPD was setting out to do. So the hours that he was going to devote to it were less, and that did result in a differential in cost, roughly $87,000 to $49,000 in their proposal, but we did have a great deal of discussion with both parties as to the basis for their numbers, and it did seem to say that the lower number, that group was not going to do the intense examination of communities' view. The community members of the community may come forward, for example, and say, here's something that we think should be done. We want to have. We were talking about no, you just name any project in particular, and that would be identified and fleshed out, which is a different approach than the EPD did. But anyway, we're contemplating we have, and we want council, we think council ought to key off the one, Pashek's proposal, because we've kind of cut through the underbrush there. We did look, there's a number, Toby has a piece of paper there that identifies the 11 that we
Actually, there's six. It's
Six.
sort of it's a tabulation, akin to a bid tabulation, but since it's an RFP, it's a little bit
But
different.
upon an examination of those, not as intensely as we examined the Pashaks and the other one, but those we felt were really not as responsive to the RFP as we wanted it to. They didn't have the background and experience as much as Pashak did. So according to that, that's the ultimate recommendation that we made. And
Would you like me to pass these?
yeah, well, please pass those around. That just gives you an idea what the other companies were, but in a way of transparency, we want to make sure that people understood what had been, the proposals that we did receive.
We need extra.
So Bill, is this committee charged with selecting the person who's gonna help do the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Or, okay, I didn't know if it was
Yeah,
to
no,
limit it down to
but-
two and then that
No,
would
I
come
only
before
mentioned,
council?
I'm sorry for talking over you there.
Is that, I just wanted to know if you all were making that final decision, or if you limited it, like you narrowed it down to two, and then both of those would come, and then we would decide, council would decide?
No, we felt that the best way to proceed, and I was a proponent of that, was to having the zoning committee and and Ted Minor, the chair of the planning commission, and Bruce, is Bruce here?
He's
Yeah,
there.
there he's sitting right. And Bruce, the land use person, and the town manager, those disciplines brought together to really look at it and understand what it was about and make a decision for council to consider further. And we would certainly anticipate that the council or all of you are most welcome, and we would expect you would review the Pashak, I pronounce that wrong all the time.
I do too.
But anyway, that,
Is the sheet still going around?
I think it stopped.
oh, I'm sorry, 'cause I
Bill was
didn't,
off- Bill was
I
off.
didn't pass it on, I'm sorry, here you go.
Please do so. But Bill, I think the charge was after we vet this, that council will hear Pashik's proposal and he'll make a presentation. I think he'll be prepared to make a presentation. Bruce, you have him lined up for July 10th
Yes, after this discussion, I will notify him.
to confirm?
He's prepared to come in.
We talked to him, I guess that was this afternoon, to see if he was available, so we could coordinate a date between council and him. I expect that he'll probably bring one of his assistants or co-planners with him. And really, as fulsomely as council wishes, we'll be able, and in advance of that, I guess we should make copies of what his proposal is, so you can get a very good grip of what it's,
Everybody has,
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
everybody have the proposal? Bruce?
No, we didn't,
Summary
we
or-
didn't,
Well, then we'll get it out.
we did
It'll
not
be-
make copies of we didn't ask for copies of the proposal for everybody.
We can have copies of Pashik's proposal then at the next meeting.
Right, or before, in advance of that, I anticipated they would be copied and sent, and reviewed by council. So that's essentially it, and then once we have Pashak make his presentation and it's thoroughly discussed and you have his proposal, we should all come up to speed with what that means, what it contemplates doing, and then there'll have to be a vote on approving this person as the approval to approve him as a contractor, because of the amount of the amount involved. I think that's essentially it. Is there anything else you can add to that, Toby, or?
Very little, we really focused on, again, what this concept is different than a traditional comprehensive plan, which is A consultant comes out, generally has some predispositions about how to do the comprehensive plan, follow the MPC, municipalities planning code, is almost to the letter, where the implementable plan says use the MPC's listing of tasks as a guideline, and then basically turn this thing around so that it becomes almost a hyper version of citizen involvement. And the amount of hours after going through all the proposals and interviewing the two that Pashik seems to understand best, the number of hours that are going to be involved. He has more interviews, more focus group meetings. In fact, I think he's the only one that has focus group meetings proposed in the competition. A couple of them that did respond, one's from Harrisburg, which would be, there's travel time included in their proposal, Tetra Tech. And their forte is not to do this kind of work, especially the implementable work. An up-and-coming firm is Envision HVA. I think they underestimated the amount of time as well.
Well, it was about half of the,
Yeah.
literally half of the hours that they proposed. Now, essentially, if I could just add, right where you are, Toby, that the Pastorek proposal and his methodology is the community's opinion and needs drives the process. It's more inclusive of citizens' views than any of the other proposals, and that's by definition and the nature of what he's trying to do. And he is to identify community needs and directly from residents, and focuses on what the plan should be, as opposed to some top-driven consultant's opinion as to what's good for the residents.
Yeah, the only other thing I would like to add is that EPD also wanted to use the town's traffic engineer for a traffic component, which is not necessary, and if it would be, we had set this up in our request for proposal that Bruce drafted so well, that if we need a traffic study, that would be separate, but we wouldn't really want to have it be part of this going in. Looking at a couple of others, Mackin's proposal had extra costs for a zoning update and a recreation plan. I think it was just, that was an offering, but Pashik has a staff person that focuses on one of the things we think is going to rise to the top. And has, been articulated by citizens for several years now, is the need to have a study at least and see where we stand with a community center. And they have an expert on staff, and that was appealing that they have someone actually who specializes in that.
And then in terms of the costs, Pashak had generally a rate of $101 per hour, and the other one had a rate of, EPD had rates of 112. Now, obviously 112 is larger than 101, but the number of hours was really split in half. His proposal were estimated of what time he would do for the, was 865 in the case of Pashak versus 445 for EPD, which is, I think I mentioned that before, that if you do just doing the math there, he's about half the hours. He's contemplating doing half the hours of Pashak, and I think the nature of what we want to have done requires a lot more detailed consideration of the citizens' views than the other guy is contemplating doing.
We have someone with expertise on staff that will obviously help be the key staff person. That's Bruce Betty, who read through first before Bill and Ted, Minor, Gavin, and I sat down with him, and we read through the proposals and listened to Bruce's analysis and then studied them as well. So there's been a good bit of time. The proposals were due first week of May. I think it was May 4th or 5th. And so study them and then try to have our schedules meet Bill's and Ted's, mine and Gavin's and Bruce's, so we could do good analysis and have with several meetings that we had going over all this to get to this point.
But we contemplate in terms of the timeline, after tonight having Pashak and whoever he brings along with him. And he had two people with him at our initial meeting. And it wouldn't surprise me if in fact, I think it might be good to have him do that, so that we can have a thorough, fulsome discussion of whatever questions might arise. And that would take place on July 20th,
July 10th.
July 10th, and then subsequent to that, we would have at a voting meeting,
Yeah, the earliest we
Approve it.
If the council accepts the idea and the recommendation, then our business meeting, as an FYI to everybody, is July 17th. We have two meetings next month. We don't have a meeting on July 3rd, and there's no council meeting on July 24th. We have our two scheduled meetings are the 10th, zoning and finance, and then a business meeting on July 17th. So we can be going on this because there's a lot to do, and Pashik's schedule seemed more realistic to us. I think, Bruce, 18 months, am I right?
18 months, yes.
And EPD thought they could get this done in 13 months, and that just didn't sound. They're very talented people, no question. But it just didn't seem realistic to have the kind of focus groups and activity that we want, and time consultant going around to different stakeholders and talking to the public and getting input, surveys, doing reviews, paper surveys, online surveys, so that all of our demographics are covered. Not everybody has a computer still, or uses a computer regularly, so it's fair to have a paper survey go out as well to get input. So this is a really, again, as Bill said, I probably shouldn't repeat, just very briefly, this is a citizen-driven approach.
I like the idea that they have 3 town council updates as opposed to the others, so that if we have any questions, or we can follow with what they're doing, rather than like some of them only have 1 council meeting. So I think that's a good idea to have the 3 of them.
Toby, do you have anything else to add? Jerry, I think that
sums it up?
sums it up at this point.
Okay.
Having said that, I have nothing further on the planning commission.
Zoning hearing board, Greg?
There was a hearing, 3 hearings on May 25th, 2017. The first hearing was for a rear yard variance of 8 feet to construct an addition. The ordinance requires 40 feet distance between the lot line and the facility, so they wanted to build it 30 feet. And the owner had letters from the neighbors. He apparently did everything right, and so the variance was granted. Then appeal number 866, rear yard variance of again 10 feet to construct a covered porch. And so he would build the covered porch within 30 feet of the rear lot line. The neighbor in the backyard does not really like it, but he didn't show up to the meeting, and therefore it was determined that the roof does not impact privacy, and stormwater is controlled. So the variance was granted, provided that a second story was not added in the future. And then appeal number 1867, a front yard variance of 2 feet to, so 33 feet instead of 35 feet from the front yard lot line to construct a porch similar to a neighbor's porch, and there was no objections by the neighbors. Variance was granted, provided that it not be an enclosed porch or a second-story addition. And there's a meeting on this Thursday. I think it's June 22nd, and there's 2 appeals scheduled for this Thursday. That's all I have.
Okay, and thanks, Greg. Anybody have any questions, Greg? Sanitary Authority, I was not able to attend the meeting, but I understand that everything's working properly in spite of all the rainwater we have.
Jerry, if I may, one quick point occurred to me. I apologize, I realize that it's your liaison reporting, but I understand that county council, we had gotten the report that county council was going to be adopting a new countywide model stormwater ordinance that included a riparian buffer that was going to have restrictions on the potential for sanitary sewers to be installed within the riparian buffer. I understand that has been tabled for future consideration to get that part worked out.
Yes, that was up last month, I reported about that.
Well, I think the hearing was right after that, but I understand that's going forward that way.
Yes,
To be
the
tabled.
sanitary sent their comments,
Yes.
and I don't know whether the people in the county know what they're talking about. Because we have, I think every sewer, every creek in the county has sewer lines in them. So,
It's usually a low point.
we'll see what happens there. McCandless Franklin Park Ambulance Authority bill.
There was to be a meeting tonight at 6:30 as they're usually scheduled, and this was postponed, so there won't be a meeting until the next regularly scheduled time. There's nothing significant to report. First, we didn't have a meeting, but even the prior meeting, there wasn't anything that was really earth-shaking. They continue to have the problem with having sufficient funds to satisfy their needs. And we've had a fairly lengthy discussion about that in the past. I'm not going to repeat it here. Greg reported on that, and I think the last time we had a longer discussion and analyzed their numbers, and we concluded that we didn't think that they were in a position that really fully justify us making a contribution collectively. So that could change in the future, but I think, is that fair to say, Greg?
Yeah, it's fair to
Yeah.
say.
So,
Yeah, but 10-year buildup is, take them 10 years to eat through the reserve they have.
yeah, well, they did report, and I know you did and reviewed it with me, and we had a thorough discussion about it and an examination of the numbers, so that's where it stands right now. I don't know there's much more to be said about it, except when and if the conditions change, they can always come back to us.
Yeah.
Mr. President, with nothing further on the ambulance authority.
Thank you, Bill. Northland Public Library Authority, Councilwoman Pyers.
As I reported before, the Garden Gala brought in $13,000, and this year the spring book sale was the busiest they've ever had, and it brought in $8,091. An Eagle Scout earlier had built it was called a book house in the library, and they have relocated that to the Ross Township Center. Northland 2016 annual report is now available in print at the library and on the website. And the last thing I have is the two new self-check machines purchased with MIDA grant funds have arrived and will be installed soon. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Northfield Council of Governments, Councilman Ladon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last May the 18th was our meeting. A quorum was present, and discussions included the acceptance of Blonox as a new member of the NHCOG to commence in January of 2018, apparently contingent upon an ordinance or resolution, whatever has to be done by their Board of Council. But we, as a group, as the North Hills Council of Governments, did agree to accept them beginning January of 2018. So if they get all their ducks in order, then they will become a new member as of January of 2018. We also, apparently the COG has sent a letter of support for continued CDBG grant program to Allegheny County and its member municipalities for fiscal year 2018. And they urged that the president urged that municipalities also write letters to their federal representatives urging them to continue the CDBG funding. There was other discussion. Apparently, the mild winter we just recently had is apparently a two-edged sword, in a manner of speaking, because Morton Salt is apparently going to surcharge municipalities that didn't take a full delivery for storing the salt that they didn't take delivery on. That's the way I understand it. Now, that's in discussion, but it's not, Toby, if you have, can you
Late
embellish
breaking-
on that?
Yeah, late breaking news on that, they withdrew that.
They withdrew that request?
They withdrew that, unless the municipality doesn't pick it up, leftover salt from last year by December 31st of this year, then they would charge. So, and we don't fall in that category. We had to order at least, I think it was 3,200 tons from them, and we ordered like 3,280 or something like that, so we were good.
Okay, but in any rate, they had withdrawn that request.
Correct.
Okay, and the annual dinner meeting of the COG will be held, the North Hills COG will be held on September 21st in the Greek Orthodox Church over here on Babcock Boulevard at Passman Hospital. That's where the dinner meeting will be held on September 21st, 2017. And unless you have any further information from a managers meeting, that's all I have for the Council of Governments meeting.
When we get to my manager's report, there's something I'd like to add.
Okay, thank you.
But leave note.
That would be my report, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else have any questions to the COG meeting? Joint Recreation Board, summer recreation is in full swing. Numbers at Franklin are well over 125 or more kids over there. There's kids hanging from the rafters over at Franklin Elementary. Ignites about 50 to 55 kids. We don't have very many up in the park at North Hill. Of course, it's raining a good many mornings, and a lot of times the parents don't bring them when it's raining. So that number was maybe 10 or 12. That's always been smaller.
That's in Marshall Township.
Yes, North Hills in Marshall Township. We're hoping that maybe next year we'll be able to use Bradford Woods School. But the last 3 summers, they seemingly they've been doing maintenance and repairs. You don't mix kids with when they're doing that kind of stuff. So that's where we are with recreation. If any of you wanna, there's 2 more weeks of it. If any of you wanna go and visit, feel free to do so. See what goes on. That's my report. Volunteer Firefighter Steering Committee, Councilman Ladon.
Mr. Chairman, there's been no meeting held since the last one, nor has a request for one been made at this point in time.
Okay. MIDA, Bill?
Nothing's changed since our last report, and that's not unusual. Once the action is taken early in the year with respect to any requests, they're sort of filled out. So nothing, we haven't had a meeting, nor has one been scheduled.
And as interest rates bump up, maybe people will be more interested in the future.
But such an interest has not yet been expressed.
Right. No, not yet, I'm sure.
That would be the driver, certainly,
Yep,
yes.
yep.
If the interest rates go up too much higher, yeah.
The Fed's been up once, and I think another one real soon, but that's not gonna change things that much, so.
No, not there.
What do you think about putting something on the Facebook page or the, web page, talking about this and kind of making it a little more public known, so people might be able to be interested and apply to it?
Well, I think anybody, and Bill works in finance, I don't object to publicizing it from here to wherever, but what drives and gets someone involved in this process is seeking financing from a bank or financial institution. And then this comes to the fore, and then they can perhaps get a slightly better deal by having availing themselves of the authorities.
Tax exempt status.
Yeah, but I think just putting it, I think my concern would be, Kim, is that if we put it on the website, it might give an appearance that there's money for people to get simply by applying, and that's not the case. I mean, what do you think, Bill?
No, that's well put, I think that's
Yeah.
exactly right. People go into a bank, and the banks all know all the industrial development authorities. And if they can knock off, 50 basis points or 100 basis points by doing it through a tax-free enterprise, they try and do that. But we always hear from the banks, they'll be the ones that will come in.
Do you understand what?
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Just seems like it's a good thing and it's kind of underutilized
Well,
is all. I was
Well, I'm
just
not
trying
so
to
sure
think
it
of
is
some way.
underutilized. I think it,
Well, rates are up, we got one
Yeah.
every year and used up
Yeah.
all the money.
yeah.
Well, it just seems like since I haven't seen it be used a
There's a
lot.
cap on how much there's there. $10 million, that's a cap.
Seems like you could do a lot with that.
And
Depends on what you're doing.
Well, the typical deal, in the past, they've been like 7 million or 10 million, or, it can really only do one. And when rates were high, they were done all the time, but still there'd only be like one or two. Many of them were like LaRoche would come in to do something, or, one of the schools or the hospitals. So it's a good thing to have, but since rates have been so low, nobody's been doing very much because the differential doesn't make much sense.
That's the key right there. If there's not high interest rates would give you a good target to get a reduction from a high level. But if you're down at 1%, I don't know what the rate would be today, but there's no opportunity for an advantage.
Yeah, it's definitely a good deal. The question is, when is it going to get to the place where people want to use it? But it'll be used again.
Okay. In the Heritage Center, we had a very successful opening, a good crowd, and a pleasant day. And since then, we've had quite a few groups going by, and I think we have some more lined up, is that right?
There's one tomorrow, it's Northmont Men's Breakfast Group is coming through, and they've offered a donation for their tour, which is very nice. It's kind of a reverse, Northmont Church offering a donation, it's pretty good. And we had a group come from Vincentian Nursing Home, came down, came in a bus, and very nice to have them there. We are working on, as I put in my manager's report, had a great meeting with Bob Stakely, who had some good ideas of his own. We had some ideas and shared with him. He said he's leave no stone unturned, and as far as events, and it helps keep the interest up.
He came up with some very good suggestions also.
That's on the manager's report.
Yep. And
Okay.
we are working on that.
That's number 6. I do have a question about that. It looks like there was, with this meeting, Councilmember Powers was also there, where there was a discussion about fundraising and programs and events. I thought we were going to have a committee that was going to address some of those things.
We're working on that.
Well, Bob Stakely called John and said, "Can I meet with you and the manager?" And then Joanne Powers called, independent, said, I have some ideas I wanna share with you. I said, well, I'll tell you what, rather than have 2 meetings, we have Bob Stakely set up on Monday, so would you mind joining the meeting we're having so that we don't have 2? So that's the way that turned out.
I think there probably are other people who have some ideas too that would have also liked to be included in this meeting.
But when I got a call from him or notice from Joanne on a Friday, she wanted to have a meeting, I said, well, if you could just come on Monday at 3 o'clock, that's when Stakely could be here, so.
How many months have I been asking for a meeting about this?
Well, the meeting is that's for organize the fundraising committee.
We're writing up the guidelines.
Who is? Who's writing up the guidelines? I thought that's what the committee was supposed to be doing. Who's writing that
I said I
up?
would do the first draft of something, and then we'd have something to look at. And you gave me your notes, and I've got that just about finished. Right now, summer recreation takes.
It was we, you said we.
What?
Is it you or someone else?
Me, anyway.
Okay, you said we, so.
No, me. Me, singular.
I heard we,
Just
so.
you and I and Jerry, right?
Maybe
Well, I'm not sure. I wasn't
That's
sure
I
what
thought.
was,
What, right, isn't it? Kim and Jerry and I, right?
Yeah, Kim and Jerry, Kim and you and I. And we couldn't meet because we had some other plans and couldn't do it that week, so we'll have to, maybe next week we'll have to do that. Next week is Community Day meeting on the 23rd, and that's the next item on the agenda. And I think we're making progress getting things organized. We find we have a place to have the parade assembly area. We've had some donations already come in. We have a number of food vendors already signed up, and it's so far shaping up like it's gonna be a good day.
where's the parade assembly area gonna be?
Pardon?
Where is the parade assembly area gonna be?
Over at Trader Horn.
Oh, we got that, okay.
Yes, they agreed that if we provided the certificate of insurance, we can have our assembly there, which is fine, because we weren't wondering where we were gonna be able to do that. So the parade will just be a little shorter. We can probably, we'll discuss the details as we look that over, how we're gonna do that. And so 23rd is the meeting for that. The Environmental Advisory Committee, Kim?
The business recycling compliance program, this past month, we went to McCandless West, and the businesses, our star businesses over there were Home Suites and Lowe's are doing a really nice job with the recycling. Non-compliant businesses are gonna be receiving a letter, an enforcement letter from the town, reminding them of what their responsibilities are. And we're also looking into see if our waste haulers have an informational video about the advantages of recycling that maybe we can put on our website that encourages looking at the financial benefits as well as the environmental benefits of recycling, to try to encourage our businesses and whoever else might see it to be compliant with recycling. The EAC had a very nice, John did an excellent job making a video of the walk through Wall Park, and I think we have it right here for your viewing pleasure.
Now, I don't believe there's any other computer screens on that side. It is marshy and wet down in this bottom. I do know that much. Obviously, the further down the valley you get, the wetter it comes.
Down?
No, everything flows this way.
Oh, okay.
Everything's flowing out. So we're gonna walk up around the bend. There is a orange gate, which was the original access route for this valley. We can walk in there, keeps us out of the mud, and then you can see right now. But let's walk this way. If we choose to walk back down through the swamps, we can on the way back. Right here, this is the dry route. So we're not walking down with the rich back fields. We're all the rain we're gonna have to do. We're not going down.
it's been the subject of study on and off for a good 10 years or more.
Mm-hmm.
So it was part of the land that was originally looked at years ago.
So the township land is actually up this valley, where that way goes towards Franklin.
Which is why I'm surprised that it stays so boggy. They're only out for like a week, but they really think. These are all by burning here. Well, when you're on a hillside, the water can drain off the trail naturally.
Right.
If you're here and you get rain for a couple of days, there's no way to get it off the trail.
This is Andrea's Court. So this is the side road to that fill area.
Okay.
So right beyond these houses is the fill. So this, I have to remember, it's not even here because the right away goes, the property zone go around, and then you'll be able to touch the fill.
Right where that starts to turn up, about 20 feet to your right. Yeah, about 20 feet to your right there.
I was just thinking of ADA, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I understand.
I'm
It's
just
going to
thinking,
be a
yeah.
tough one.
Yeah, okay, good.
Communities you want to look at, the easiest one is the running community and the hiking community, because you don't have to put in as much, and the trail biking community.
Fade to black.
So there has been a feasibility study in the past, and there was actually some plans that were drawn out for some trails in that area. So we're trying to get a hold of those to see what's already been done, what needs to be done, and just kind of take a look at the feasibility of it. So that's where we are with Wall Park. We're also exploring the possible application for the Pittsburgh Sustainability Certification for the town. That's ongoing, and once we have decided about that, then we bring that and explain that to council. In number 4 on the Toby's report, is it number 4? No, number 7, excuse me. On number 7, he gave a nice explanation. I just thought if you wanted to talk about that now, since we were talking about this, or
We'll see why I'm not the town engineer, but I did a drawing.
Yeah, I can see why you're not.
Thanks, Dave. But, yeah, there's some, I think the report pretty much speaks.
close?
we've had the great fortune of connecting with Margie Miller, who is a master gardener here, a resident in McCandless, and is in charge of or leads the planting at the Cannon in North Park. And we asked if she would be willing to come over and kind of look at our frontage and see what was good, what we could keep. There are a lot of good plants there. I didn't think we needed to tear everything out. She would come evaluate that and see what needed to be cut back, what needed to be pulled out, what's sustainable there, what isn't, what maybe could be planted in there. And so she came and she met with Toby and Scott Shepherd, and your results?
No, the plant material that's closest to the town hall is sturdy, holding slope well, and she thought it was good and functional, and it fills up that area nicely, and she said we ought to keep that. But then, the drawing that I did was to show, sweep it around from looking out, if you're looking out toward Grubbs Road from the left, which would be to the west over to the east. The two maple trees that are there, just, they need each of them has limbs about 3-4 inches that could be pruned. They're too low. Probably the guy's cutting the grass has to duck every time he goes under it too. So for practical reasons, to shape the trees, make them look better, get a little bit more of a view of still giving us a buffer, trim those up. And then we started with a couple of the hemlocks look scarfy, and then by the time we walk along all the hemlocks, anybody's going along Grubbs Road and with the plan on having a sidewalk along or frontage on Grubbs Road, it really isn't appealing to look at the hemlocks that the deer have eaten the bottoms off of, and the also probably some salt spray from Public Works has contributed to that too. So those hemlocks have got to go. They've been there for, that landscaping plan's been there for 30 plus years, so that they should go. And in their place, Margie said, let's just wait till September and see what it looks like with those out of there, and see how much room there is for some indigenous plants. In particular, she suggested serviceberry, which is a good local, regional plant.
Are they the redwoods?
I don't know. I've used the term, he asked if they're red.
I don't
Oh, they're red and they turn blue.
Oh, they're red and,
They're red, they start off green, then red, when they're ripe, they're blue.
okay.
Birds frequently get them before they get to blue.
Oh.
They're good to eat.
And she asked permission, and I gave it to her because it was a nominal item, frankly. She said this would be a great place to plant a couple hundred bulbs. She has a source that she gets them that they're $50 for 100, and she said they're mixed, and they're so there's something growing there most of the growing season during the spring and summer season. So that sounds like a nice feature. And then there's a locust tree out there that Mark Sabina pleaded for clemency for the tree, and I said, you know what, we can do some pruning, but locust is not a real popular tree, a little bit on the dirty side and so forth. But he has one point that it sort of balances out. If we cut it down, then the front will have only two large trees on one end and not much on the other end in terms of height. So it's not a bad idea to try to keep it. So we'll do that. And the crabapple trees, as Margie pointed out, she said they really don't have a particularly long lifespan, and she said I think these are near the end. And she said they're just kind of, even if you try to prune them, they look pretty tired. So we want to cut those down. We may use our town arborist tree service that are under an annual contract. They were quoted out this year. They're under our bid limit. Jim Reese is a local guy that he may have to do some of the work, but Mark wants our guys to tackle most of it if our schedule permits. And so we'll be done by the middle of September, ready for bulbs to be planted and some bushes, and leave the rest.
That's all I have.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
The businesses that you said that the town would probably have to send them a letter that they're not recycling, did they give you a reason that they're not?
Some of them did. Some of them said that corporate handles all the trash, they tell us what to do, and so we do what they tell us. And they'll talk to corporate. Some people, even employees, took the initiative to gather up their own bottles and take them home to recycle them. Some people really had some conviction to do that. And I think sometimes, people just aren't thinking about it.
I was just
That was
curious.
a very kind description.
I was just curious if they gave you any kind of a reason.
So we're just want to remind them.
Right, I understand, but I just,
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it, yes.
I have no reports except the resignation of Bill Huntley. And no other correspondence. No of. Town manager?
Thank you. If I could go over a couple of highlights briefly. 1H, the North Park Bicycle Pedestrian Multimodal, that should be AL, I didn't see that typo before. Modal, the improvement project. Just scratching the surface on this, but I wanted to point it out. It sounds pretty interesting, exciting. We're probably all familiar with all those lanes that look like a racetrack around the North Park Pool parking lot. County and the state want to divvy them up amongst walkers, bicyclists, and cars, vehicles. So, and then we're gonna do some work on some other roads in the park as well, Hemlock and Ridge, so we'll stay tuned to all that. They had what they call a scoping meeting. There were more orange vests than our berries on a serviceberry plant, I think, up there at that meeting. Just, they were all every discipline from PennDOT was up there, just kind of getting oriented to the project. Item 2, kind of sadly, we tried hard, but the RLEAF funding, Automated Red Light Enforcement, and the Green Light Go grants went to other communities. I put Governor Wolf's bulletin in the packet, it's council and to the public and on the website that shows that we weren't the only community to not get funded here in our area. Very few did, and it went more towards signal and construction-oriented projects. So we want to take one more shot at this. I've authorized our traffic engineer to help us with the application for next year, at least give it one more try, because if we do land the Arlie or the Green Light Go, it could mean significant monies to us. It's over, each of them was in the neighborhood of $150,000. But I just wanted to point out that with some consolation to us that PennDOT's work on McKnight Road is huge. I mean, that's going to save us close to $1 million in intersection upgrades that we ultimately would have had to put in our capital budget. So that sort of softened the blow for us. I do have to ask your blessing on number 3. It's a good project. I think it's something that we have talked about lightly here, but PennDOT, when they were looking at the Cumberland Road work, went down to Duncan and Babcock, and you know, the Cumberland, I pointed out that the Cumberland-Babcock intersection is now functioning normally with the left turn arrow. People are happy with that, the new additional left-hand turn arrow. PennDOT said, you know, without too much work, we could put a left-hand turn arrow at Duncan Babcock for traffic going westbound from Babcock turning left onto Duncan. And so that'll cost us under $10,000, especially Mark Savannah. He's rooting around signal heads that we try to sell in community today, but if he can find a signal head that'll match out there's some signal heads that are not that old, and that'll help reduce the cost further. So if I
Is there a room there without taking from the
this
gas station or the pizza place?
This is Duncan and Babcock at in front of
You're
North Park
Duncan and
Lounge.
Peoples.
Okay, you're right.
North Park Lounge. It's just a new configuration timing of the signal and a new signal head. You probably have to put a new.
So it's a left turn heading
left turn. You have
towards
a dedicated left-hand turn.
McKnight.
Yeah. But right now you
And
have
there's
to
room for
wait for
that?
traffic. There's a stacking lane there now. They just don't have an advanced left.
Okay.
But this would give them a safe left without having to dodge traffic coming the other way.
Toby, on the subject of lights, you'll recall, of course, that I mentioned I had a constituent inquire of me as to whether anything could be done about adding a left-hand turn, a dedicated left-hand turn on the at that corner where Babcock goes north onto where the signal is, and then left
Onto
up on
Egamar.
Egamar Road. Is anything been done about that, or?
Mark Sabine has turned that over to Allegheny County because that was their change that was proposed to the signal, and let them decide if they want to do additional traffic studies there, since it's a park intersection, if you will. But he asked me, rather than him do traffic counts, maybe the county ought to do them. So he's waiting to hear back from the county. So that
Is your expectation is they will respond?
They better. If they don't, then
Okay.
I'll move up the food chain and talk to somebody.
Yeah, I wonder whether they needed a little bit of
I'll make a note to see if it's time for a nudge.
time for a nudge, maybe.
Why did they take it out to begin with?
No, it wasn't put in. When the light was four lanes, or 2 lanes each way, and they turned it into 1 lane with a bicycle lane and a turning lane several years ago, that works pretty well. But there was not enough traffic. I remember specifically 19 cars an hour turning left from Babcock to go west on Ingmar. And PennDOT said this is not enough.
Really?
That's what the traffic counts show. They said it's just
At
not enough.
midnight?
No, that was during peak. Only 19 people wanted to turn
Wow.
left. So that wasn't enough to motivate PennDOT to put a
I've
left.
seen 19 cars lined up there.
Well, if that's changed, that's the whole point. If it's now, since it was put in, I think it's been 4 years now.
Yeah.
I was,
Three, I would guess.
I was also asked today if there's a possibility that we could do a study at Highland and Sloop for stop sign, a light, something.
Well,
And
we-
a culvert.
Well, the
I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but,
Yeah.
about a report on the culvert.
I wanted to ask with the Duncan Babcock, before you leave that, is, it says that we still have, matching funds in the capital budget, and that our portion is 10,000. Does that mean that 10,000 came from the?
Not having the Arley and the Green Light Go. I'm suggesting keeping what appears to be maybe 7,000 or 8,000 from what we were gonna match for the Arley and Green Light Go, and use that this year, and then put that 7,000 or 8,000 in that we use this year, put that toward next year's Arley Green Light Go commitment, in case we get that.
So is this 10,000 from this?
For that area that we budgeted.
Okay, from the area that we budgeted, okay. So it's not in addition to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Joanne, that has been looked at considerably. It goes beyond, there are many things. One of them is sight distance. And one factor that PennDOT does consider is that, could a traffic signal make things worse? Sometimes they can. The biggest problem with that intersection is coming down Highland Road going north, coming around the curve, and people once they finish that curve, if they can go 35 or more, they are, and they come through that intersection, is that they have to put the brakes on, even with the advanced warnings that now are available for signals saying, you've seen these LED signal, said red light ahead kind of
Right.
thing. And even with that, PennDOT and we share the same concern, is that to try to stop people, there might be rear end accidents, there might be T-bones. So if that curve and that hill wasn't there, I think that would be a good candidate. There's probably enough volume to have
I would think so.
a traffic
I would
signal.
There's
think so.
a
That's
lot of
busy-
volume down there.
That's a busy,
Because that Oneida is used as a shortcut from
Right.
19
Right.
over to Rochester Road by many people, and it's certainly about all the folks that live in the Highland Manor plan of lots, which is the nice official name for the Indian village. And and Sloop Road, we passed a long time ago, it was about 1,800, 2,000 cars a day. And Highland, I can't remember, but the volumes are fairly significant. But it's just that the danger of coming down the hill. If we do a study and then that signal would be warranted, then we would have to put it in. But it's just, there's a real caution because of that one physical feature there.
so would you suggest that we do a study or not?
No, I would not, but what I would suggest we do is talk again to the county. We'll look at it, we'll have our people look at it and point out to the county. There have been several times that the county has agreed, although they don't like necessarily us pointing out to them. We do it to be helpful, not to be critical.
But it's our community, why wouldn't we suggest?
Right, but we point out to them if there are old signs, or if there's an additional sign that they could put up, an additional curve ahead sign, any other kind of signage that could serve as a warning, a brighter one, the more fluorescent green signs, that kind of thing. So we can do that. I think we should at least do that much.
Okay.
And then, next page, the tax collection district, only to point out that we had a good meeting with the tax collection committee last Wednesday. Keystone was very helpful in producing a lot of the data about their collections. Their reporting procedures have been advanced, and they are doing a great job. I got an email from the manager from Fox Chapel. I just saw that it was there. I didn't read the details, but I saw that the subject was thankful for last week's meeting, that they got a lot of answers, because Fox Chapel, as you can imagine, if one large taxpayer moves, it could have an effect. They have some large taxpayers over there, so there's some tracking programs that Keystone now has in place for all the communities and school districts to use. The other key thing is the firefighters' credit. There's a lot of work going on that hasn't been talked about too much at this table. And we're down to a couple of things. One, well, first of all, Keystone shared with us how prepared they are to put into effect for all the municipalities any tax credit that would be enacted for a volunteer firefighter or volunteer EMT. And they showed us the program on screenshots. They're ready. The state fire marshal has convened a committee. Tim Sullivan, he's a former legislator in Harrisburg. He was appointed fire marshal by Governor Wolf, and he has this committee helping him. Keystone noted at this meeting that Mr. Sullivan's committee is a little bit reluctant to try to state some sort of policy that the municipalities should follow. And we are asking through, I've asked through Senator Vlahovich's office that please pursue. Senator Vlahovic has been very, very helpful with this program and kept us up to date on what Harrisburg's doing. Please have Mr. Sullivan issue some sort of guideline. State issues us guidelines when there's any kind of mandate. DEP gives us guidelines. The Conservation District is a separate body, but they give us there's guidelines from so many state agencies. It would be helpful to have something that municipalities can hang their hats on as to how many hours they recommend. They give guidelines for firefighters, how many credits they have to have before they can become a firefighter 1 or a firefighter 2 and so forth. So, but in my report I note that the managers believe that a $200 credit would be fair across the entire COG. We recommended that to all communities in the ANTCC so they would be uniform. There's a newly formed Fire Chiefs Committee in the COG. It said the credit should be $300. So to me, the next obvious step is to have the managers and committee, it's almost like a congressional committee, and the two houses are talking about the same subject. Put together what a joint recommendation would be to the governing body of the COG so that credit can be promulgated to all municipalities. The point is, all the managers in the COG believe that an Aetna firefighter and a O'Hara firefighter and McCandless firefighter should all receive the same credit because there's a mutual aid agreement that we all can help and protect each other. So, and the Aetna folks, there has been some mercy shown. They haven't asked for it, but Norvale, Sharpsburg, they're really trying to keep their boots up, strapped up and active and being good solid communities, and they're doing quite well in so many ways. But the other managers from the other communities were, as I was telling the chief who's in charge of the Chiefs Committee, the other managers are being thoughtful by recommending the 200, but we'll see. Lastly, the number of hours that the chiefs in the COG recommended to be considered an active EMT or an active volunteer firefighter, I think should be discussed. It was only 50 hours a year. That seemed a little low to me, and that's a personal opinion. You have to see what everybody else thinks. And, I don't know exactly what that number is. My head was maybe 100 a year, but we have to see what. I'm going to pull our fire companies and get a little bit more background from them. MS4 program. I reported.
Wait a minute, go back there a minute.
Yes, sir.
When we're talking about 20% of the property tax, which property tax?
Towns only, but that's all the state permits under this voluntary program. But no community except, well, Sewickley's not in a COG, but Sewickley was the only community out of everybody in attendance that was in attendance at the Allegheny North Tax Collection meeting that is going to use the property tax. Everybody's using the earned income tax. And there was a suggestion that's being mulled over about what about retirees that aren't making any income. So there's talk about some sort of credit given to the fire company on behalf of that individual or something. The diplomacy that's being looked at. The MS4 program, I report on that every month, but it's not so much that I'm certainly not wanting to drone on. It's significant, but it's going to get more attention here very shortly because the time frame, we have been working on this latest step, which is a pollution reduction plan. It's the next step in the progression of water quality, and that is to focus on water quality in the next 5 years of our DEP permit that all the municipalities under the MS4 program work under. The pollution reduction plan is being finalized here. It is to be a product of the administration and the engineers, but it gets public review for public comment. We want to do a presentation, and since we don't have a business meeting on the 24th, and the reason we don't is we didn't know if the Allegheny League of Municipalities was going to have an event scheduled. Most often they do that night, but they don't. So that night will become available, and I'd like to schedule that to be a public open house. We'll have a presentation on MS4, the water quality, the pollution reduction plan, and we'll have drawings and so forth around the assembly room so that the public can look at, and then there's a comment period that's required by DEP, and I believe the comment period's at least 30 days. And we have to have the pollution reduction plan then submitted to DEP. It has to be in their hands by September the 15th, and we want to beat that by a couple of days so that we're not somehow going to miss a deadline, but we don't want to do that. So the target is that we have to reduce, in the first 5 years, we're supposed to target sediment and nutrient reduction. The nutrient part is through education. The sediment part is through prevention and through repair. And we're planning on having various elements that our engineers have been working on diligently and interacting with Bruce and Mark Sabina and me, and to some extent Dan Stack and Jeff Frazier. But Bruce and Mark are the two key guys, and me to help push it along. But to these best management practices will include things like stream bank restorations and there are various wonderful techniques out there like Quar fabric, Quar logs. Quar log is simply a bundle that the Army Corps of Engineers uses this technique. It was used out here. We got an Army Corps of Engineers grant for a little over $200,000 about 10, 12 years ago. We were losing our outfield fencing. It was getting close to where it was eroding. And Mark Sabina asked me if we could, we reported to council, can we contact the Army Corps of Engineers and be prepared to put matching funds? And we talked through the project, and council said yes, and the Army Corps of Engineers gave us a great grant, and we restored that whole area along there with these Quar logs, which are dogwood bundles that are planted in the side of the stream banks. And after 10 or 12 years, everything's just grown and stabilized, and you don't have to have huge rocks necessarily to stabilize. Sometimes that's the best solution.
Can people put them in?
Can people put them in? You know, I think they can. I think that it's something.
Because we're having that exact problem down on Whitmer where they're actually losing property visibly every year.
The public can do it, and that's one of, how ironic that when these storms hit last week, Thursday around 3 o'clock and then Friday afternoon, roughly the same time. The first one lasted for about 45 minutes, the second was about 20 minutes. But the intensity was a little heavier on the second storm. The statistics show that there was almost an inch of rain, 0.96 inches of rain on Friday during that 20 minutes. And during 45 minutes, there was 1.32 inches of rain. Our storm was mainly localized over in the Whitmer area, Harmony Drive, along Highland Road and up into the back end of the Indian Village and Olive Street, Squire Place, and a couple of other streets over that area. But that storm, like a little mini microburst, hovered over that area. And I live in that area, and I have ruts in my lawn that I haven't had since we first moved into our house. When I didn't have a lawn yet.
It was worse than that, just that area, because the amount of damage to that golf course, which is miles away from that area.
Golf course, you mean the driving range?
The Pittsburgh.
Well, Bruce is in contact with that owner of that property about that too. But it was not just, the most intense from the reports I've gotten was in that area in Highland, where that was the worst case, especially for private property being damaged. And I got a report from Mark Sabina that what exacerbated that situation, usually when we get a lot of rain like that, there is flooding down there, but it got worse because of the log that got sucked right out of the stream.
So first of all, who owns that? Who's cleaning those culverts?
The culvert under Highland Road is Allegheny County.
Two of them.
The one at Oneida, there's one there by Oneida, that needs cleaning.
Under Oneida?
Yeah,
No, beyond that field.
No, right where you turn, where the house is that got
Okay, there's
flooded,
one at the,
right beside
If
that.
it's across Highland,
across Oneida from that, there's a field-ish,
That
a
goes with
fairly,
that house there.
are you talking about, are you talking about basins on Highland? On that
Yes.
Highland Road?
if you're coming down,
I know
so they're
you-
both
I know you
Highland.
mean. They're both county.
There's a ton of stuff still jammed into the
Yeah, that needs. that
second
needs-
culvert, the one going back up towards Sheets, not the one that flooded, but the second one. And first of all, they've got all that stuff piled up in their yard right now from the volunteers and everyone.
Sure.
Can we get someone down there to pull it, because they're not gonna be able to get garbage men to haul away pallets and railroad ties and 4x4s and that were all wedged
They
into
have,
those.
they have a big dumpster full now, they're having them come and pick it up.
That's the
'cause I
second,
was
is that a
with them.
second dumpster?
Yeah, anything that's left, and along this particular subject of helping people, Mark Savina sent me a message right before dashing home to dinner, and he said that we had a reach out from the family of an elderly woman on Whitmer.
Right.
Right, okay, I had a
80-something-year-old.
phone call right
And,
before I came, yeah.
Given her age and the fact that apparently a relative called,
Carpet.
but the
Granddaughter.
carpet, Mark wants to make that disappear in our dumpster. And I-
Right, so we've got multiple properties.
We were able to, I think we should
Right.
help.
Right, that's what I want.
The other
Exactly.
part is that those who can come here, Mark asked me this morning if we could position 3 dumpsters up on our soccer field. To have somebody that knows somebody that has a truck or whatever we get. So we've done that in other storms, but, I said, sure. So we have positioned 3 dumpsters up on our soccer field parking lot for those who can bring over their materials. There are other pockets that got hit with storms, but.
We also lost
those-
5 or 6 garbage cans in that.
Well,
downstream, so-
Mark said our guys were down in the Whitmer dam and they were trying to, I'm sorry, the drainage detention facility behind the sanitary authority property, not Whitmer Dam. There's some other stuff going on in the dam. And one of our guys were trying to pull a 95-gallon cart that was filled with water, and the water was still cascading, so you had to get them away from that until it subsided a little bit, and the guys could pull. Yeah, we understand some yard waste carts disappeared because of the storm too.
Okay,
So who are we contact? I actually have a woman giving me the addresses of everyone missing them. Who do I contact to get these new cans? Because she's just gonna give me one list.
So if you have one-stop shopping, it's called Public Works, extension 184 Valerie, we'll take that information down.
184?
Her extension is 184, not our usual number.
I also have the 2 homes that were flooded down there. I spoke to them this afternoon, and they said there's a house up above them, road up above, that has a big pipe. That water comes out of the pipe, comes down on the second house that was flooded, comes down through her yard, and she has all kind of rivets in her yard from this water that's coming down. I said, well, I'd ask if I could have someone go up there and check that.
Well, one of the things that we did, when we were starting this part of my report here, is that how ironic that Wednesday a week ago, we got a report from the engineers about the areas they wanted to tackle. And then last Thursday, we had a follow-up telephone conference with our engineers about our staff response to some of the areas. And we're on the phone from 1:30 to 3 o'clock, and then the rain started. The area of the subject was, one, we have a study done and a design being done for additional stormwater detention off of Harmony. We tried to do more stormwater work even before such detention was popular, and at least do some piping and some slowing down, decelerating the water through riprap. The previous property owner would not give us a right-of-way, and so we deferred that, but she's now deceased, and the new owner there is gracious. He's already given us an easement, and we are doing a project along Harmony Drive partly because.
At the end of Harmony.
At
It's
the end of Harmony,
dropping
near
down
the
onto
substation, near the
slope,
substation, yeah, where
right.
it's dropping down water down on the sloop and on the Highland through the old Harry Clutter property along Highland. I don't know who's in the house now, I don't think Harry's there anymore. It's on the opposite side from the 2 homes
Right.
that got inundated on Friday. But, so we have a project already in the works to get as much, this stormwater detention and deceleration of the speed of water on that site. And the town purchased with a group of residents, from Olive Street, not too long ago, 7, 8 years ago, from a fellow named Gogol, who wanted to build a house on, Bruce, how many acres Gogol have? About 6 acres?
6 or 7, yes.
And Bruce had a hard time trying to explain to him where he could put a house, even a house on his property. And, because it gets wet, and it's down over Olive Street, behind toward the back end of Olive Street. And so, we have revisited this as of just last Thursday, targeting that for, stream bank work and some deceleration of water, because there's really not enough room and too many large standing trees to really tear that area apart to try to, it's not big enough for a good detention facility because of the way the land lays, but for whatever we can get out of it, that's gonna be one of the recommendations to come through. And that was, again, within minutes after that, us having that discussion, it was kind of ironic, but nevertheless, there is gonna be some help on the way there. And previously, we put the Whitmer Dam in. We got an easement from the people that developed the Glens off of Highland. And we have a 27-foot deep at the breast detention facility that can fill up that whole valley. That helped Whitmer a lot, and we put retaining walls along Whitmer Road to contain Whitmer Run for the most part. And Allegheny County, last but not least, Mark has been talking with their engineering department, who suddenly transferred it to their bridge department. So I'm gonna follow up with the county manager and tell them how important, they have now classified, just within the last few weeks, the 48-inch pipe that they have under Highland Road as a bridge. So the bridge department has to design it. That's their standard, okay. But we have a Sloop Road on our road program, so if we have to stop short of that, we will, to wait for them to do what they have to do under Highland Road. But they have 2 things to fix under Highland Road, and one of them was at least the 48-inch culvert bridge that is deteriorating and falling off, and that's, there was regular
See light all the way
erosion
across
there.
the top.
Yep, you sure can. Yep, so Mark has been working with them for several months now, but if they're switching to another department,
So they're gonna get bigger then, I would imagine?
I wanna talk to Willie McLean, the manager, and, say, Willie, if there's a time to put in something bigger,
Right.
this would not be a bad
So
time.
are we saying this culvert's going to get cleaned out?
I can't commit for the county. What you can say is that I'm going to communicate to the county that what we see out there, it's been reported at our council meeting tonight, that the second culvert, a smaller one, is filled with debris and.
It's not filled right now, we pulled a bunch out.
Okay.
It's laying
They
in
should
the
check
people's
the
yard.
condition of that and see if there's anything they need to do to that one, but along with the 48-inch pipe. I need to talk to Willie, are you able to increase the size of that culvert? And if he wants us to help him run the hydrology, I think we'd be glad to do that.
Now,
To
can we
protect
get
our
what you were
residents.
talking about the banks? Are we able to do that along that streamline there where it,
Well, we are. Now, that's what this DEP program, what's gonna, when we present this next month, but sort of a preview of that is that up to this point, the mantra has always been, if it's on private property, the private property owner has to fix it. Now, a private property if there's a tree that's getting ready to fall over and might cause a problem, and if you notice it, private property owners should take care of things like that. But when it comes to bank restoration and stabilization, we are now going to be recommending to council to put that into our capital budget, because we have a mandate to reduce sediment by 10%. Some of that should be stream bank restoration. Some of it should be filter sacks, like we put up for Dr. Komorowski's request up on the road that feeds into the detention facility. Filter sacks are working great. Mark Sabinas said the lifespan of those things is 5 years advertised. He said the way they're holding up, he said he wouldn't be surprised if they lasted 10 years. If that's the case, you'll see a report soon that's gonna show what the most cost-effective way of meeting this 10% goal is.
So we're gonna work on Whitmer.
We're gonna work on Whitmer, we're gonna advise the residents for the umpteenth time that they should raise their bridges. That is their responsibility. That is basically their driveway.
Right.
Sometimes when the residents have rebuilt their bridges, it's sad to see that they just threw something together again that was just above in fact, braced on the retaining
Resting
walls.
on the wall.
They really should, we've advised them, that please, when you do it, put a bit of an arc on them. If we can give them some help, not to build their bridge, it's their responsibility, like I said, it's their driveway, but at least help them to give them designs, and I think we have, we might go back and check the records, I think we may have even done that. But they should do that to help themselves.
Now,
That'll be
one
it.
of the residents above the two that got 36 to 40 inches of water and mud in their house was telling me that he has had problems in the past because from across the road they've got a lot of water coming down and it washes across into where his storm sewer is, and he said that the township told him it was his responsibility to clean his own storm sewer. Well, A, why would we do that, and B, why would that be
I don't know if
anyone's
we-
responsibility?
Well, I think one of our staff should talk to him. Find
Yeah,
out.
we should not be cleaning, he should not have to clean the debris that
No,
comes from
I-
across the
There might be
hill.
a misunderstanding there.
There's a woman that called me from Mohegan also, she cleaned out her storm sewer because it was so filled and she got flooded also.
Well, and the Public Works Department, Police Department did a nice job. The volunteers did a great job of helping people, helping raise money, clean and pitch in. Fire marshal and firefighters, Highland Fire Company, I got a report from Dan Stack preliminarily, at least 22 homes had water pumped. In the Highland Fire District and 4 in Peebles. A couple of them are typical that they get water a lot over in Patricia Drive area.
Nordica.
And at Nordica, but Public Works, cleaned up Friday night till about 9 o'clock, and then today went around all over the town cleaning off catch basins that the residents hadn't pitched in to clean up themselves, which is not a bad thing to do. If somebody has a catch basin along their frontage, that's a sensible thing to help the cause, help your own self, because if a catch basin's blocked, next time it rains, it just might back up and be on your property, so it's good to pitch in. But we went around today, that's what our troops did the whole day, is clean off catch basins.
So they're telling me that there are still trees across the stream, so they should cut them themselves?
Well, I think that's something that I'd like to have somebody from Public Works, like Mark Sabina, give them some guidance. I would love to help them to understand, what they can, can't, should or shouldn't do, what they might be able to do. But on a temporary basis, right now, I think they should do some sprucing and take care of that. Because council is gonna have to approve the funding for what the engineers and administration submits to DEP. Council then, we're gonna be presenting information for our capital plan in the not too distant future for the next 5 years, and certainly for 2018 for some of the stream bank work.
Okay. And I don't mean to belabor, but I need to answer some questions for these people. Will someone from our Public Works go and check on this pipe that supposedly is pouring water on her ground?
Please, if I can have a list either by email, or if you have it in writing, make a copy of a list of addresses, any contact information you have from anybody that's contacted you, and general location, what they're talking about. And I was looking at the map this morning, first thing with Bruce Betty, about where all the outfalls are from the plan of lots above the area that got hit the worst down on Highland Road. There are approximately 10 outfalls, meaning pipes over hill, that were built in the 50s and 60s, maybe into the early 70s when that was developed prior to something called stormwater management, where water was piped to and fed into a stream. So there are things there that we are going to be proposing to address as well.
Okay, so I can give you the address
Please
of
give me any
Mohegan also.
information. Please give
Okay.
me that information, and we'll have
Now,
report. I'll get a report back, and I'll give you a report of what is accomplished or not accomplished.
Okay.
now the storm sewer at the bottom of Valley View off of Ingmar, above the golf course,
Okay.
has been feet deep for at least 20 years. But I just actually, while we were in the meeting, had someone run down and take pictures of it. And it's over 6 feet deep. If a child could literally
What,
fall
you mean
into it.
the
If you drive down
the
Valley
outfall,
View,
where the pipe
Mhm.
outfalls and then
it's gone. The pipe's been gone for 20 years. It's been rotted away and missing for 20 years. So when you drive back there, there's a 6 foot to 10 foot deep cliff literally plowed through the earth, 2-3 feet wide. You have to leap over it to get over
It unfortunately has company around the town, but that's been identified by Public Works. I don't know off the top of my head where that one is programmed, but that,
Well, if you walk down it
we've talked.
and you get to the golf course, that's the only real major erosion from that flood for the golf or the driving range
At least from the town.
came from Valley View.
Yeah, but they don't call it Valley View for nothing. I mean, the Golf Inn is.
Well, they should change the name to Valley Flooder.
Maybe, but it is a valley, and it's a low point, so, and Bruce, the previous property owner piped, the piping through that area?
Yeah, that was a stream before that was built, there was a stream down through there, it starts up on Crossing, and comes down through there.
No.
Plus the water coming down from,
We're not talking about the
He's
one
not talking
coming
about
from coming down through Cooper's Run. We're talking about the one from Valley View
well, I
Road
understand what
south.
you're saying, but he's getting the water coming down through there, that was a stream.
Yes.
And then plus, I know what you're saying about Valley View, but there is water coming down, there's a lot of water
Right.
coming down.
It's right
not
now. There's
just-
a
and
ton
It
because
was
I
a
walked the
stream, we
golf
would not
course
allow
today.
that to be built today, and it certainly would not be permitted to be piped.
When you enclose a stream, you have something that can happen like happened in McKnight Road. There used to be a creek along McKnight Road. You enclose a stream, you build in McKnight's case, you build a limited access highway over what was a stream. Streams start to come up through catch basins, like they did last week. And it can, in this guy's property, he pipes in a property so he doesn't have to dig out golf balls out of the stream anymore, his predecessor. But that's what he bought, and that's what he has, and, now the golf balls are being dug out of the ground, that's okay. But then when it rains, it's gonna stay, and it's a low point, it's gonna stay saturated for a while, and it's gonna get
Oh, I
inundated.
understand that, but to see the amount of water that's being dumped onto it from Valley View is astonishing, how much water was coming out of it.
water comes over that whole hill.
Mark Sabina and Gateway Engineers have gone around to every outfall in the town now. There were 563 left from last year into this year, and they have gone around, and I believe that's a completely accurate number, if I'm wrong, that's my best recollection, but 563, I believe, is what we started the year with. And Mark on Saturdays has been cataloging them, photographing them, so we can put those in our MS4 file if you give us some. Citizen input's a great thing to have.
I mean, where to
Because he's
send them
got
to.
photographs and plans are in development. These outfalls all have to be corrected, because a lot of them were put in post-World War II, prior to stormwater management. We have addressed a lot of them in the past, and there's still more to do. There's still more to do.
Late 70s?
If I may add to that.
Well, there should be as far as I know, in Valley View, there was a holding pond, a holding tank put in the street.
Correct, there was. I talked to Mark about that today.
Wasn't there a holding tank put in there?
There is. Mark's going to get that cleaned out. He's going to examine Donna Drive detention, and he's already looked at Cooper's Run detention. And we're gonna look at that with the engineer just to make sure that it's functioning properly. And so the houses up on Ridgeview, the houses through Cooper's Run, all go into a very large detention facility. So we're gonna look at that and make sure it's functioning as designed.
That takes in all of Belcrest.
But just walking that today, the golf course and up by Valley View, all of the physical damage, other than just water, all of the ruts, everything I saw came from Valley View.
Okay.
And there was,
Duly
it was, as far as I know, when we paved that, we put a detention pond, a tank in there.
Yeah, whenever we reconstruct a road, when we get down to the subbase, we put stormwater detention in it now.
Mm-hmm.
That was done, Jerry, you're right. Mark indicated to me that was done. And he's gonna be going out, have his crew go out, I believe tomorrow, to look at that. So we should probably mention what Steve was talking about.
Public Works has, Mark told me this afternoon, had 40 complaints from around the town. Some is, a couple complaints that I have some mulch that was washed out to, more severe. And they're all gonna be investigated, he's in the process. To see if there's something we don't know from the past. Last comment briefly is the Savvy Citizen. We got a legal review on their agreement and hope to launch here shortly.
And hopefully they will stop sending multiple messages from the same, I got 5 messages that Pine Richlands was gonna be closed on the 4th of July. I only need one message from that. Pine Richland Municipal Building will be closed on the 4th of July.
That's a good point. We'll ask for instructions on
Why do you get repeated messages from
You
the
can
same
ask,
thing?
there are filters on it, I think are available under that app. I'll double check on that, I'll recall it.
So are we going to, just to make, at least offer the residents maybe some core logs for this Whitmer Drive area?
Well, what we ought to do with Whitmer, in order to do this, we'll get organized on that.
Because the one woman told me that she was told it was illegal for them to do anything to the banks.
No, they can maintain the banks. What's illegal is if there's something that has to, that they wanna do that is requires a DEP permit, then that would be
She
considered
says there's
illegal.
tires from years and years ago that used to hold up the banks.
That's right.
And now the tires are actually ripping out from the force of the water.
They had
On the side.
tires put in there, they used to use rubber tires filled with gravel. And they did that.
Well, they're all ripping out and they're actually eroding their yards away.
The DEP came along and says, take the tires out, doesn't happen.
Well, the water's doing it on its own.
Well, the bank on the residence side, across from Whitmer Road,
Mhm.
has been theirs to maintain. If they wanna do something to the bank that requires a DEP permit, we have talked, maybe it's time to send a broadcast letter again down, there may be new residents down there since the last time we did it, probably are, notifying them that we extend the service, council authorized this years ago. I asked when I was getting some complaints or questions that would take an engineer, that could we have an advisory service basically to individual citizens. Not get involved in their private affairs, but to give them guidance on what they can or can't do about DEP or whatever. We've been doing that for years. Bruce, I don't know how many times you've been around with Andy Banfield from PBE or Mark has
Oh, a good 100 or more than 100.
over the years.
Was
So-
there anything we can put together to
Well, we ought to get a little bit, I think we ought to get organized.
put on our site, you know?
We
You
ought,
can,
if Mark and Andy haven't gone down to Whitmer, Bruce, why don't you help me coordinate that with those guys? And,
So Mark's gonna go to help this woman?
First of
It's in her
all,
80s?
Mark is gonna contact any names you have for people who have, who've got the 3 to 4 feet of water. If they need anything hauled away, we'll help them haul it away.
there's,
Well, let me-
beyond them, there's more properties than just the ones that got 4 feet of water. The older man at the corner,
Him too. I mean,
And
all-
the people
and
across the
that pocket was-
Stronida.
That pocket was the worst hit. If we
Right.
have your blessing to do that.
there are
it
obvious
sounds like
piles
a-
of garbage.
Definitely, I think we
So,
should do
yes.
that. I think we need to
So,
help them.
we'll do that, and then, but I think as far as organizing a project, I think we should, get our engineer to tell us what would be the most, sensible thing for the residents to do on their side of the bank. Especially, one of the things maybe in the offering is that we'll end up doing some work along Whitmer, so that we don't want them putting car logs in and then, if we're gonna end up doing a larger scale project.
That's why I want you to look into fixing it, but I'm asking if we can't do anything, if they would be allowed to, and it doesn't
Yes, the
sound
answer is
like.
yes.
Right, I think definitely we need to be in there fixing, because this isn't their own water that's causing damage to their house, this is water that's coming from hundreds of other properties and rain and nature and everything else, but.
And one of the questions the granddaughter asked me about this woman, is there any kind of aid that she could get that would help her
So,
to replace the carpeting in her floor and so on that was ruined?
well, she asked if there was any state aid, so we are gonna give her, connect her, we're gonna report this to Representative Terzai's office. Marie gave me that information late this afternoon. The Area Agency for Aging, and we're looking for any other, agency that the county has, that can,
Would
point some.
homeowners not pick that up?
Not unless they have flood insurance.
Did she have
The
flood
two-
insurance?
No,
And they were supposedly, everyone I talked to told not to get flood insurance. They're not in the floodplain.
And the two that were really badly damaged,
Mhm.
I spoke to them this afternoon, and they said they talked to an insurance company, didn't have flood insurance, cover nothing.
Nope,
Bruce can follow up briefly, as you want to.
same
Yeah,
thing.
what happened with those, and in fact, Nick, I've gotten to know over the last year or
Nick.
so, Nick Kasich,
Kalich.
Kalich. I've gotten to know him over the last 7-8 months, a year. And I originally told Nick that he was in the floodplain because that was that's what the map showed. And he says, no, I went to the bank when I bought the house and they clearly indicated I'm not. So we got out the new maps and he's not. And I called FEMA and asked why they're not in the floodplain. But that doesn't mean they can't buy flood insurance. If they wanted to buy flood insurance, they could.
They were supposedly told not to get it.
I don't know who told them
I
not
don't
to,
either,
but they can get it.
Because they lost cars, they lost.
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah.
did.
They lost a
One people
lot.
lost 2
That
cars.
those poor girls looking at the photographs from her grandma that she had just brought home from her grandma's
It's
house.
extremely
all the
sad
albums.
what happened, extremely sad. And I was talking to the gentleman up the street who lost his culverts again.
And they're both
For the
kids
second.
in those two bad
Yeah,
houses.
yeah,
Right,
right.
they
I
they
don't
both,
are.
the one's only
Didn't
both
ask
just-
the
a
age,
year, and the other one a
but
year
I'd
and a
say
half.
25-ish.
They just
Yeah,
bought them.
there
They
you
just,
go.
both of them just bought them. One, Matt bought his more recently than Nick and his wife. But gentleman just up the street lost a whole culvert. 2 houses, goes back to two houses. And they just redid it. It was approved by DEP and had an engineer design, but for whatever reason, that velocity just went right over top of that.
Who
And
said
it's
that wasn't in the floodplain?
FEMA.
Well, they send a blind man out.
I don't know what they did, but I did contact them when Nick told me he wasn't in the floodplain. I said, Nick, I don't want to cause you trouble here because I'm still going to enforce our 50-foot rule for construction of anything new.
What's
which
the
is
50-foot rule is,
you can't build anything within 50 feet of a stream bank that is more than 100 acres.
that's in our ordinance now.
And so I told him I was going to enforce that and do. But I did contact FEMA and asked them why they removed that, and they were going to look into it some more.
And Whitmer Road's flooded periodically since it was built.
Yeah, Whitmer Road,
And you tell me that's not in the flood?
no, that's still in the floodplain.
That's still in.
Huh?
That's still in.
The two homes
On
going
Highland.
up Parma Highland were told that they were not in a floodplain.
Yeah, they flooded, that property's flooded.
They said they flooded in Ivan and Katrina and,
They
I
flooded
mean, not often, but.
ever since,
It does
any
flood.
years you have a big heavy storm, they flood.
Yeah,
And Whitmer Road floods.
oh, I believe Whitmer floods.
Did you hear
Whitmer's
anything from
flat.
Lincoln Boulevard? Because I got an email from someone from Lincoln.
That wasn't passed on to me, at least not yet.
Yeah,
Lincoln, where did
I'll
that?
I'll put that on my list.
Presidential Street. Anything, anything anybody's contacted you about, please, so we can see if
Okay.
we can do something about it. Bruce, have you talked to Nick, is he aware that he's allowed to get flood insurance?
I told him that when we first talked about this. I didn't tell him it this time. A law was passed a few years ago that made it very expensive to get flood insurance.
It's not cheap.
The subsidies are gone.
Their houses are so bad they can't even stay in them right now. They're both.
And one didn't even
they're-
have power as we left, it was cut
Right.
at the pole
Yeah.
from the sparks
Yeah, it's,
that they were getting in their house from the water and the electric. I mean, the sinks were full of dirt because the water got high enough to overflow the sinks in the bathrooms.
the second house, she told me she their car was in the garage the right way, and the water
Right.
was so forceful, it moved the car
It
up
lifted
to
it,
an
floated it,
angle
and turned
and
it.
was clear up to almost to the windows. So that car's ruined.
And when it drained back out, it ripped the garage doors out this
Right.
way. The garage doors are buckled from inside.
There was a shed demolished a car
Right.
just up the street.
Oh, did they end up demolishing the shed that was
No, the
floated
car
down?
demolished the car. The shed's in good shape.
Yeah, the shed seemed like it floated without getting water, and it was more of a ship.
Yeah, really, it just amazes me.
It's right up against the garage doors.
the,
Yeah,
in the wrong place. It's
in somebody
else's
it's in somebody else's yard, you're right.
Jerry,
to get it back.
Chief of Police asked me to ask council a question. The 28th, sorry, 29th of June, Thursday the 29th of June, if council would be available to conduct interviews for police candidates. The background check
Is that a Monday night?
that's a Thursday night. It's gonna take, there are five interviews to conduct, and so they're about
That's
half an
next
hour
week.
each. Yeah, 29th, so that he just finished the background investigations, and
I might be out of town.
Same here, I am gonna be out of
I
town.
know I'm out of town, I just don't know which days that week.
how about July 6th? That's a Thursday also.
That would probably, for me at least, be better.
We wanna start at 6:30 so that we can complete them all in one evening.
You have 3.
5, there's 3 vacancies to fill.
So we're interviewing 5.
You have to interview at least 5.
So eliminate the 29th then.
I think with 2 council members there.
Okay.
July 6th at what,
You're not gonna be here either? Okay.
July
I'm gonna
6th
be
at
in
what time?
Brookville. He's
Give it
not
to
here,
us.
and Kim apparently is not gonna be
6:30.
here either.
To
They're not
interview 3
available.
policemen?
5.
5.
And what about the 6th then?
6th
That's
of
what we're
July,
talking
it
about.
sounded like everybody's,
No one said no yet.
nobody said no yet.
Greg has a set of orders.
I think I'm okay.
Check when you go.
We wanna start at 6:30 to be,
6:30, July 6th, Thursday.
we reconvene the business meeting, and ask council to make a motion to adjourn the business meeting so you can go to executive session to conduct those interviews on that date. And July 6th?
Works for me.
That would be great. And the chief will get you a packet before then. Thank you.
How many police officers, potential police officers? I guess they're already police officers in some form.
Yeah, all of them are the candidates, as I understand it, are
Yeah.
police officers. We have 3 vacancies to fill.
Six candidates. Is that what you said?
Five.
Five
Five.
candidates, okay.
Because the process is, you interview 3, and then you must select one out of those 3. Then after, now that you've selected one, then you interview the next one, so then you have to pick one out of the 3 of the next, and then you interview the 5th one, to have 3 to choose from.
So 5 is really the minimum of what we should be interviewing.
And that's by law.
Right.
You interview 3 for 1 slot.
What were those numbers again? We have 5 candidates coming in, and how many, what you just said about the
3
slot?
vacancies.
Three
Three
vacancies.
vacancies.
Three vacancies. And how many people have to be interviewed? You-
5.
interviews.
To get
Three generates an obligation to have 5 interviews.
For each interview, you need to have basically 3.
3 to choose from. And a court case says that if any of the 3 is a veteran, the veteran must be hired, just so everybody knows.
But if 2 of the 3 are veterans,
They both get hired.
yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like. I mean, we wouldn't even-
They don't really
but
have a
if the
choice.
first 3 were veterans, do we even have the option of hiring the
If the first 3 are veterans,
4th and 5th?
you wouldn't have an option.
You don't have an
But you
option.
wanna talk to them anyway,
Right.
because you have to appoint them. Then you do have the option of not appointing anybody.
No, we need to keep them
Gotta keep it moving.
filled, that's for sure.
And when he said he had them done, and he asked me if I could please
Yes,
bring it
there's
up.
the comments.
Jerry, that's the end of my report.
One
If
more.
any other business?
Well, we have Bill
Town
Reese's
attorney.
report still.
I have
Bill
no
Reese
report
has
this
a
evening.
report.
I do not.
Okay.
So Bill Reese is clean,
Do we have
and
to
I
ask,
guess we're finished.
have we asked for comments yet? I think we still have to.
No comments are
No comment. Meeting adjourned.
What's that?
No
during
comments.
the meeting. Comments are during